Hey, everybody, welcome to UGASports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dayne Young and the Hall of Famer himself, Jim Donnan, former Georgia Bulldogs head coach. And the only reason everyone's tuning in on this Wednesday at noon, which we appreciate, we had to move it back a bit there. And we appreciate everybody joining us here on either YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you're watching the show from. It means a lot that you reworked your schedule to be with us. We see Greg's with us and Leanne Sedlock's with us. We always appreciate our early commenters. That kind of gets the juices flowing, if you will, knowing that people are actually in the room with you. Coach, we took the bye week just like Georgia did. We recouped. We tried to get healthier. Didn't really work in our case, but we're back. We're going to talk about the whole Georgia-Florida game. We'll talk a little bit about the Michigan sign-stealing saga and the fact that it came out yesterday that they may have been attending some of Georgia's games, as a precursor to playing Georgia in the playoffs. So I will give you your pick of what you want to talk about. We can talk about the loss of Brock Bowers, what's going on with the offensive line with the Xavier Truss out. If you expect Kendall Milton to play this weekend, just the floor is yours. The board is yours. Take us where you want to go.
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm glad we're back on. I was coming back from the airport last night and stopped to get something to eat, and nice couple who follow us said, "What's the deal with the show, Coach? We got it on today and you weren't on." And I said, "We're going to have it tomorrow at 12. So I know two people are going to be listening today. So it always makes me feel good. And they've always been nice to me. For some reason, I can't pick out their name real quick. But I wanted to acknowledge one award that Lamb McConkey's just been nominated for, the William Campbell Award. Since I'm in the Hall of Fame, they send out a early precursor to that. And I'm sure y'all have seen the thing about the announcement. But it's a William Campbell Award for the outstanding student athlete leadership, academic, and athletic performance. I think there's like 18 guys around the country been nominated for it, and then one person will win it. They go to the Hall of Fame banquet out there where Coach Rick will be nominated and installed this year. So it's just a tremendous deal for good job there for Ladd. He's had a tough year, and but I really think he's going to be the difference coming home. I just think he's hungry. Our players believe in him. He's a big play guy, but he just personifies what you want in a guy on your team. And this award just really sets him apart around the country so that everybody else knows what we know about him. So I'm very happy for Ladd, and I feel bad what he's had to endure this year, but I think there's a little rainbow here for it. So as far as what happened up there at Vanderbilt, we didn't see quite as much of the domination that we thought, but I think from my perspective, trying to put a little bit of silver lining to it, once Kirby saw Bowers go down, he pulled the dang plug, man. I'm telling you right now, Milton didn't play anymore. Milton probably could have played. I'm not the doctor, but I just saw the way our team reacted, and that game was in hand, even though we had to do some things, but I just don't think we played with any bit of the aggressiveness like we did in Kentucky after that. And I don't blame you. Hey, it doesn't make any difference if you want to put lipstick on a pig or whatever you want to do. That game was over, and he just wanted to get out of it. So, but conversely, the old coach here, the way I feel about it is we've been kind of laying in the weeds here. All year long, everybody's been talking about what's wrong with Georgia. Not everybody. I mean, pundits around the
everybody. Yeah, that's fair to say.
But the reality is, you got one of the most perceptive, forward-thinking coaches that I've ever been around. Even though he's a younger guy, but he really can look into the future. And I think when fall camp started, he realized our schedule was not going to be anything like it was going to be at the end of the year. And he realized we were very inexperienced from a depth standpoint, which hinders your scout team a little bit. I mean, your scout team, here is got to perform because, you got the gun to, you got to really do it. So what my perspective on looking back at what happened, which we've had 8-10 days to do it, is that he spent more time developing our team than he did working on the others. Now we worked on those teams. Now, don't get me wrong. There's no question about that. And I'm not there to practice to see how much time they allocate or anything like that. But I feel like he's a lot more concerned about developing guys, getting them ready down the stretch, building confidence, competition, than he was somebody running a play that might score a touchdown on us from some dipshit team. That's a bad name. I mean, some team that's not anywhere.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
I mean, which on the scout team, you got to work on all those plays. You prepare, you do all that. So what you might have lost with a couple of teams scoring plays that we may not have seen or something like that, we more than doubled from a standpoint of the intensity going against each other week in and week out, combat offense versus defense in every drill. And to me, we're a well-oiled machine except for a couple missing parts, which really have hurt us. I mean, you take two of our top 15 players in the draft that are going to go, and Mims and Bowers off the team, that hurts. Plus, you add McConkey, very limited, and then just keep adding that. But people don't want to hear all that. But what they want to hear is what I'm telling you right now. Get ready, baby. Get ready. Get on this ride here, because I think everybody's talking about there's not a dominant team. I don't know if we are or not, but I guarantee you one thing. You're going to see a lot more Kentucky game type playing from Georgia than you are Auburn, South Carolina, some of that. You're going to see, because I saw it against Kentucky and I saw it starting against Vanderbilt, and then we pulled the reins in a little bit. So if you're sitting there and worried about Florida, you should worry about them. Hey, things happen down there. There's, but I'm a lot more fired up about what we're getting ready to do than I am about what Florida might do. Florida, you saw the Kentucky game. If Milton can carry the ball 10 times in this game, Katie barred the door, because I think Edwards certainly will. And that'll set up the play action pass and all that. So as far as the offensive line, Truss did get hurt. I'm sure he'll be, marginal, but we got, a really good chance to get Freeland ready and Blasky probably. So I never have worried near as much about what I don't have going into a game. And, hey, if you're calling the play, okay, we're going to run 7 to 87. Oh, we can't run to 80 because Brock's not in. We're going to run 628 wide and light. Oh, we can't run that this week. Brock's not here. I mean, I'm overselling this, but you've got to go with what you got.
Right.
We got some weapons. I think some guys that are going to come up to the front, maybe a little more. Bell maybe get a few more inside run passes now. They can move him in there. Delp certainly is ready. Lucky, fortunately, he's coming back. So our defense is, in spite of everything, is ranked number one in the SEC. So I think people just got this damn show off, man. Because
yeah, I mean, how can we follow that up? You mentioned Robert Bell. I want to give a shout out to the Bell family. His grandfather, Robert Bell, is being inducted into the Mississippi State Hall of Fame. So
congratulations.
His father, Bell's dad, won't be there. He'll be there for his father at the Mississippi State Hall of Fame ceremony. So
is that Athletic Hall of Fame or what?
Yes, sir. Give him hell, Bell, who was one of the first African-American players at the Mississippi State University. So shout out to the Bell family for that honor that they are getting. And I think it would be
ring the bell, Bell.
Good job. It would be a touching or an apropos performance from the younger Bell, Dylan, to just take it to the house a couple times against Florida. I think that the dad and grandpa would be very happy to see that. But yeah, I'm one of those people, Coach, to your point, that's like, well, Brock Bowers out. It's over. It's over. We're done. And you know me, I get Munson-itis. I get negative thinking just because, especially with this game. You know, I have phobia.
I can understand that. That's typical for everybody. There's always angst involved, and I think preparation-wise, I'm concerned about what they might do and what they can do and all that. But bottom line is, you just got to understand what our potential is, and I think we saw the development of our team there against Kentucky and a little bit of it against Vanderbilt. But what you are going to see is an improved Florida team in some areas, but you know they got to tackle our guys. I mean, this is not going to be a flag football game. They got to go out there and get our guys on the ground. They couldn't get to Ray Davis on the ground. He's still running, I think, in that one game. He got 286 yards. So I think you'll see maybe a little more running from us this week than you've seen all year just because it's there. And running into the C gap. I mean, between the guard and tackle, they're just not – they're having a hard time tackling people there. So, but things happen in games. Listen, San Francisco 49ers undefeated, lost their last 2 games. I mean, things happen like that. I mean, and part of it, you watch Kirk Cousins the other night, you think, I mean, I know he's a Christian guy, but they should drug test that guy after that game. The passes he threw, I mean, like 37 out of 42. I mean, throwing every way. And so sometimes,
and not having his best receiver, he's hurt in Jefferson.
Sometimes you just hit a hot guy, and that can happen to us. But I will say this, and I was out in Oklahoma, you know, last week and everything. People out there completely mesmerized about Georgia. God, talk about our team. I mean, everybody, and you know, just saying, what's it like? You know, all that stuff. And what the one thing I want to share with you, I went to a luncheon with Coach Switzer and some of these guys, they call it Sooners Helping Sooners, where under people, some of the players that might have had some bad luck and all, they got this group that helps them, their families, and pays for their bills and stuff like that. But this one guy was the quarterback on the Sooner team that won 47 straight. And he was also a quarterback in high school, and the guy was patting him on the back. Said, "You ain't never lost a game in high school." He said, "Yeah, I did lose one." So he went through his high school and his college career, never lost a game. And he was saying, "Boy, that must be fun over there in Georgia." And, you know, 30 years from now, that's the way Kirby's going to be walking around talking about stuff like that. But, I mean, here's these guys talking about, that's really awesome, the kind of team you got. And I went out and watched Oklahoma, watched them practice and everything. They got a good team, not near as big as us, but very skillful and got a good quarterback. But, you know, they kind of peed around and almost lost to Central Florida because everybody's patting them on the back and everything. And Gus Malzahn did one of the worst play calls I've ever seen, the 2-point play that they ran.
Oh, God, yeah.
A double pass on a 2-point play. Hey, if you're going to run a 2-point play in junior high, high school, college, pro, it's called your best player going the best way he can. He's throwing a double pass. The guy's running to his left as a right-hand passer. He can't even raise his arm to throw the ball in the end zone to try to tie the game. So I thought he did a good job coaching except for that, but that's neither here nor there. But if Oklahoma's in the top 5 or 6 in the country, which I don't know if they are or not because they got a game with Kansas, you know, I like the way our team looks compared to them in a lot of areas. But that's a scouting report there. But I do want to get across to our fans that people are envious of where we are.
I mean, I was talking to a guy in Miami. It's the same thing. I mean, this was a former Miami player during their heyday, you know, when they're going up against you. And well, I was speaking to someone who was talking with him. They were in the same conversation. He's like, "Hey, what's it like to cover a team that doesn't lose?" I'm like, "Well, he eventually will lose, but they're, like you said, I think you phrased it perfectly. They're in awe of what's going on in Athens, Georgia right now. And the ride, you said, enjoy this ride. They don't come around that often. I guess we're all kind of, inevitably peeking to see, where's the downfall? Where is it? Having some injuries makes people nervous about, what could happen. But
yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
Look at Georgia's favored by 14 points this weekend. I mean,
you talk about
that's
that
pretty
all
good.
of us got to be careful about being, overconfident, and you got to respect all teams. But one of the most perceptive people I've ever met anywhere is Barry Switzer, and guy's 85 years old, sharp as a tack, and we're sitting around. We can't hardly even talk because people are coming up to him wanting the autograph and everything like that. And then he tried to pawn up some of them on me, and they acted like they knew me, but not me. But the bottom line was, he said, "Man, you got some players." He said, "I look at that D line." He said, "I look at those O linemen." He said, "You got players. You're so much bigger than us." And I think it's just a real tribute to what Kirby's done. And it just sometimes grass looks greener. You start looking at all these teams around the country and all, but go up there and eyeball them, on the eye test and see them in person. And I was doing the James Brown right there, man. I was feeling good.
Well, I'm feeling really good about some of our sponsors. Let's take a quick break, and we'll get to all the questions we have. And there's some really good questions from the dog event that you need to check out. I want to first mention our friends at Academia Brewing Company. It's a Wednesday, so you may have missed Trivia Tuesday last night. But there's another trivia contest coming up this week. Tomorrow night, they're having Harry Potter trivia at 7 p.m. It's also the same night they have poker night. So one part of the Academia Brewing Company will have Harry Potter trivia. The other one will have poker night. Of course, today is Wing Wednesday. They have a hot wing challenge out there that I didn't even know about. I was scrolling up and down their Facebook page. I'm like, what is this? I didn't know that existed. And then Sunday, they have their cornhole competition. They've got a new Jack's cheesecake out there that's covered in all sorts of candy. So if you don't want to go trick-or-treating, but you want to get all the cool candy stuff, you got to check out that cheesecake from Jack's Cheesecake. Shout out to Jack's Cheesecake. They brought us a dessert out to the Wire Park when we were doing a Dogs and Hogs show out there with Russ Tanner, which I thought was kind of nice of them. They got a Hot Wings showdown. They have their second winner recently. And this coming weekend will be their last bike night. So there's only one more bike night left in November. So check it out when you get a chance at Academia Brewing Company. Also want to mention our friends at Athens Ford. I'm about to reach out to Athens Ford. Once the show's over, I have my father-in-law's GMC truck, an older one that we use for moving stuff around, wouldn't start. And I'm going to reach out to their mobile repair team. They have a mobile service team. We're within the 20-mile service area. We're going to have them come out, and I'll schedule it to come out to the house and get the truck started. So shout out to Athens Ford. And it's so super convenient when it comes to fixing things or doing any sorts of service. And of course, if you buy any vehicle out there, they have a lifetime powertrain warranty on all their new vehicles, and the vast, vast, vast majority of their pre-owned vehicles will also come with a lifetime powertrain warranty, regardless of the make or manufacturer. So if you're going out there and you're buying a Toyota, a Honda, GMC, whatever, and you buy it from them, you're going to get a lifetime powertrain warranty on it, so long as it's basically under 80,000 miles, which is the vast majority of what they have. So check out our friends at Athens Ford. They're huge supporters of the Bulldogs, just as you are, for those of you who are watching the show. So shop where the dogs shop, and shop at Athens Ford.
Coach, I want to ask you specifically just about when you do run your offense without Brock Bowers. This is a Georgia offense that ran largely through Darnell Washington a year ago, and then with Brock Bowers so far this year. But I've heard a lot of coaches say that when adversity hits, that sometimes motivates your other players on the team. So for these guys that are hearing that Georgia's offense is not going to be the same without Brock Bowers, or Georgia can't do this and that without Brock Bowers, do you use that as a coach to say, hey, you other guys, you're great too?
Yeah, I think you've got to be realistic, and everybody knows that as good as Delp is, and lucky those guys, they don't have the experience, but they do have a working knowledge of the system. And what y'all just say is, we got to get closer together, and everybody's got to do their role a little bit more. And you're going to have an expanded role here as a receiver, or we're going to use you more as a blocker, or whatever it might be. But articulate to your players what exactly how you're going to make up for the losses. It's like, if whatever you're doing, you lose an employee and you got to get somebody in there and all that. I mean, everybody has got to work together and do but the biggest thing is, you talk to the defense, hey, we might not be scoring quite as much. We got to be careful there, and you do your job and all that. Kicking game wise, I mean, Bowers is in the kicking game. Somebody got to step in there for him. So Kirby's a master, as I said at the get go, of understanding what it takes to get the best performance out of people and pull the plug or push the buttons or whatever you got to do to motivate your team, but not only motivate them, but be realistic in what you got to do to have a win. I know early on in my career, I learned from a coach that I won't mention who he was, but you got to talk to your whole team about what you got to do to win that game on Sunday. And you talk to your defense about, look, this is a very explosive offensive team. And, the defense understands that and all that. But at the same time, you're telling the offense, look, we got to score some points, because if our defense plays great, they're going to do that. So you understand we're all going on the same plane. We're not offense or defense. We're Georgia Bulldogs. So what it's going to take for us to get a consummate victory, team reward, what it's going to take for everybody doing their role. We're going to need to block a kick this week, or we're going to get the hidden yardage on the return game, or, what we're going to stress. For instance, the national championship game, the week of that, which we shared on the show afterwards, Kirby spent an inordinate amount of time talking about his team, didn't think there were enough condition in the SEC championship game, because he kind of coasted at the end. And some people had mentioned that to him from other staffs, and they did extra conditioning and worked hard. And look what happened in the fourth quarter, the way we played. Our team was convinced that if we got that game in the fourth quarter, we were going to take it over. And certainly it was up for grabs, that's for sure. But that was the mindset, though, of how we were going to get ready for them and do different than we did the first time, So another thing you talk about rivalry games is everybody's going to, you got to be careful that you don't get too caught up in looking around at the stadium and checking, God, this is unbelievable. I'm playing in the Georgia-Florida game and blah, blah, blah. Hey, that's great, but you got to take that nervousness out of the way and get in there. And I just remember the year we were supposed to down there when I think Pruitt's last year and Muschamp's next to last year, and they couldn't run the ball any, and they ended up running like 350 yards on us. We couldn't stop them no matter what. And I would have thought going to that game we were going to crush them. Wouldn't you, Rod?
Yeah.
that was unreal. But that happens sometimes in every game, not just rivalry games, but it's you just got to prepare accordingly, and everybody's got to fill in and do their job. I think our running game should be good against this team. They have a hard time stopping the rush, and they're last in the league in sacks, and we're first in the league in sacks allowed, so we should be able to launch the ball pretty good too.
Well, that's the thing. I've heard that their secondary is susceptible, but then Kentucky ran all over them, so I thought their strength was up front. So I'm really confused about what this Florida defense looks like.
Well, part of it was just the fact they just missed a lot of tackles. They are big, but they run multiple defenses, and they try to confuse you, and sometimes they confuse themselves. They don't get lined up very good. And, that hurt them against Kentucky, and then they made some in-game mistakes, but their tackling was terrible. They got that Kimber kid that played for us playing corner, and our guys know him. They know what he can do. He's a pretty good cover guy. He's not real, unless he's gotten really a lot tougher. He's not real tough against the run, but our guys look forward to that challenge. That guy left here because he didn't think he could play, and we'll see how it works. But
it's a lack of consistency, Roddy, because a lot of the things that you saw with Florida, Kentucky that didn't go well for Florida, those are the same things that went well for Florida against Tennessee. And that's one of the games that feels like an outlier this year, that Florida dominated that football game.
Tennessee, that game, just the fact that Florida got some unbelievable start on them. And, if you get that kind of start, of course, we've been slow in certain games, and they just gives them that feeling of they can play with you. And, last year we jumped out on them, but then the third quarter, they played really good. But, they had Richardson. And, I don't know that their talent's much different. They've transferred in so many guys I'm not really aware of. They got that Pearsall guy, is a good receiver. But, if you got tickets to the game, you need to go to the dang game and enjoy it. I mean, I think
hey, we're giving away 2 tickets, Coach. Yeah, and if you look in the comment section there, we're not only giving away 2 tickets, we're giving away 2 passes to the Cabana area. So that stadium has a pool in it, and there's a Cabana area there. It opens up 2 hours beforehand, free food, all you can drink, all you can eat. Changing rooms, lifeguard on duty for a pool that's only,
So people go swim and then go to the game?
They can swim. And there's changing rooms there. You can put on your bathing suit, swim, watch the game from the pool, on the pool edge with all your drinks and all your food. And we're giving away 2 free tickets. All you got to do is give us an email address so we can send them to you.
That's a real Cornello there.
Yeah. So the guy gave him.
You going to go in the pool?
I almost did not put this as a giveaway. I almost decided to just put those in the pocket. Like,
take the long lens and just shoot from there.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll just sit up here and watch this game. I'll do the watch along from there, from the pool.
It was a screenshot of Roddy there in his Speedo.
Yeah, Speedo. Pressed up against the glass. That'll be it. But yeah, the Cabana tickets there. Hey, look, the links in the comment section there. Click on it. Go put your name in. And we will give those away Friday, probably around lunchtime. So it's a quick turnaround. We just got them, so we're turning those around quickly. All right, Dayne, hit us up with some questions. I know we got a bunch.
Yeah, we'll start with Coach. This is a very simple one. I think I know where you're going, but Pierce Outlaw asks, "What's your favorite Georgia-Florida memory or story?"
Well, when the whistle blew and we won that game was a great memory because, they were so good. But
talking about 97.
Yeah, but as far as the story, I don't really know. I guess I tell this about every third and fourth year on these deals, but asked about before the game, what the coaches talk about. Well, I think it's the third year we were playing, and Spurrier says, "What do you think about those blue pants we got on today, Jimmy?" I said, "What do you mean, Coach?" He said, "We never wore blue pants against Georgia before." I said, "Steve, I don't give a shit what kind of pants you got on." I said, "I think they look pretty good, I mean, can you imagine he's asking me what I think about those blue pants?
Head games with Coach Spurrier. Head games, man.
He was serious. He wanted to make sure that I like those pants.
Do you think about that every time you see their blue pants now?
Yeah, I do.
I would too. I'd be like, that son of a bitch.
I'm telling you now, that guy was always good to me. I'm not just talking about when I was here. Every place, when I was the first time I ever, of course, I played against him at NC State, and then Doug Dickey had me down there for an interview, and Steve was interviewing too. He was coming in from San Francisco, and we spent a day together talking ball. And after that, we've always, hopefully, he's got mutual respect for me. But I've always enjoyed being around him, and he's definitely a competitive guy. That's for sure.
I thought it was very classy of. It was Dan Mullen, for sure. A couple years ago when Georgia beat Florida and the coaches went and met at midfield, there was one of our dog vendors was actually out there at the handshake, post game. And he can confirm this because, a couple people said it, that Mullen went up to Kirby and said, "Hey, you got a damn good team. We are rooting for you the rest of the way." And I'm like, wow, that's not something you expect to hear. And then Georgia went on to win the title. So as much as I'm these teams hate each other.
That's probably a lie.
It may have been. It absolutely could have been, but it wasn't announced really loudly. So I thought it was a classy thing to say.
Maybe he did, but you don't want your.
I know they're not tight. I know they're not buddies, but I just thought it was
that I came to work here after I had to come. They played. We had a press conference, and then I went back to Huntington, and then our team played in the Peach Bowl, and then I flew into Atlanta, a couple of days later, and it was the day of the national championship game when they were playing Nebraska, and I stopped in Conyers there. I might have seen you there, who knows? And I was watching the game, and I said, "Good God, we got to play these guys." But Nebraska spanked them too. But that's a memory I had of seeing Florida right there.
This question from Bulldog Ben: with the loss of Brock Bowers, is there more pressure on the defense to step up, or more on the receivers and running backs to make up that loss?
It's just a consummate. It's on everybody, and you just can't. You can't say we're going to do this or do that. But from an offensive perspective, where are we going to get? Who's our go-to guy going to be? Maybe a little more, and how are we going to maintain this same kind of offensive prowess, so to speak? So it might not look the same. You know what I mean? Might not be the same style, but Mike Bobo over the years always utilized a tight end for his blocking. So I can't see us going what we call 10 personnel, where you have 4 wide receivers and no tight end. Maybe somewhat, but I think this is why you practice and all. Oscar Delp came in here early, did a good job last year. Now is his chance, and let's see what he can do. I mean, you just tell him, hey, we're not expecting you to do anything except what you're capable of, and we're not going to ask you to do that. But as far as the defensive pressure, like I said, I think our defense has just got to get better in the red zone and make teams fight for yardage inside the 20 when they get there.
It's like you're producing the show for the next question. Billy Zane, his question: the biggest difference between this year's defense and 2021 or 22 statistically is the percentage of touchdowns allowed in the red zone, 120th nationally this year compared to 1 and 2 in the previous years. Do you think that that's mostly attributed to execution, scheme, personnel? If you were the coach, would you look into specific red zone packages in terms of different personnel like some NFL teams do?
I think it's personnel for sure. I mean, when you look at the Eagles play the other night, you got a good idea. You got 3 guys out on the field that were playing on our defense. And so it's different. But you do look at how you can do better. And I think if Billy was listening to the first of the show, I think a couple of touchdowns that were scored on us were maybe because we'd spent more time working against each other than we did the other team. And I'm not saying that we didn't work on the other team. I'm really wrong on this, but I just feel like that we do a great job of scouting and playing tendencies and all that. And I think our red zone potential is going to be better because we're going to be really focused on each foe that we're playing that week, and like we were for Kentucky and from now on in, and certainly we were for Auburn and South Carolina. Don't get me wrong, but those other teams, I just don't think we spent a lot of time on Ball State all week, or you know what I mean, or UAB, or I just feel like our Tennessee Martin, we're getting ready for the year. So, but as far as schemes, yeah, you look at putting more people in and doing this, and I feel like something I'm trying to figure out is how do you stop that quarterback sneak that the Eagles run? That, golly, that's unbelievable. I mean, you got to put 2 big old Chilardos up inside and just hope they can submarine and bring somebody from the outside and grab them. But they got a 97 percentile rating on their quarterback sneak, the Eagles do.
Bonus question from Billy Zane. Do you think the hustle Carson Beck showed on the tackle after the interception against Vandy, did that garner more support from his teammates, or is that kind of overblown by fans?
Yeah, I think maybe because he did such a terrible job in his first interception against UAB of nonchalant. It looked like he didn't realize how fast the guy was and didn't attack it like he probably could have against UAB a couple of years ago. And then this one, I mean, he was possessed. There's that story that they told about Bear Bryant one time, the quarterback threw an interception, and the guy was trying to go, and the quarterback ran him down. They asked him after the game. He said, you're not that fast. He said, how did you catch that guy? He said, well, he was going for a touchdown. He said, I was going for my life. Knew what Bear was going to get on him. So, but I thought that was a good shot he hit on that guy. I hope that guy didn't get hurt too bad. But, the one thing you can always remember is if you knock them out on the 2 or the 3, there's a chance they might screw it up and not score. I mean.
Oh, yeah, we see that all the time.
I've seen it in this game where Georgia didn't a few years ago have 7 shots from the 2-yard line, couldn't get in.
I think, they did.
And didn't Nolan Smith strip a ball pretty close down there?
Grantham held them out of there. I think it's just going to be always respectful for when the quarterback makes a defensive play. I mean, your defensive players respect the fact that he's just not, untouchable like they are in practice. They got on a black jersey. You can't do anything to them, but showed a lot of grit there. I made a tackle one time on a punt in college where the guy just really cut back. I mean, he had me, and I lucked in and knocked him down. Our defensive guys came out there and grabbed me like I was, Dick Butkus or something. But it makes you feel good that you can maybe contribute.
Jim Terry Tate Donnan. I love it.
Big Fatty 94. Who's your breakout candidates on offense and defense for the rest of the year? We get some kind of question like this virtually every week, but I think halfway through the season, I am curious. Do you see people that maybe haven't played a whole lot have
breakout candidate 84? I think McConkey's going to break it out, and I think Smile London's going to do the same. London's going to do the same thing on defense. He's got it rolling now. I think he'll be a dominant player. So those are my 2 breakout guys.
Lawson Lucky and Julian Humphreys.
I knew you would go Humphreys. You've been on that train for
I was a Dayne Everett guy while everybody else was on Humphreys, but I'm working on the trend because I asked Kirby about Dayne Everett specifically. I'm like, look, guy came in. There was this open competition. They went head-to-head. What can you tell me about Dayne Everett's play so far? Because I always want to hear the coaches' take after they break down the film and and Kirby's really good about giving you something good and something bad about a player, something he needs to work on. He gives, not medically, but play-wise, he always gives a pretty good, honest assessment. And he's like, yeah, he answered about Dayne Everett that immediately mentioned Humphrey, says he considers them co-starters, and we're seeing his playtime tick up. And I'm thinking, this is a guy, again, to me, breakout is somebody we haven't seen a whole lot of.
Yeah, that was Humphreys. Want to say thank you. Let me just say this. The one thing that Kirby does that I really think is awesome is always recognize players and their roles when they're doing something. And you got to think to the transfer portal too. You got to keep playing these guys. If there's a chance to play them, give them an opportunity. And I'm not saying that anybody in particular is going to transfer, but all of a sudden you start talking up a guy that's alternating with somebody and don't say anything about the other guy. I mean, hey, but he's not going to give any false praise. That's for sure. He's going to always say exactly like it is. But I think what they do is they got Lassiter, who's more advanced, and they bring him, maybe not give him quite as many reps in practice and let both those guys run with the ones to get them ready. So we got a good situation there.
I'll throw out 2 more names just to do this. You mentioned McConkey. I agree with that. I think Rosemy Jackson has especially this game against Florida, the injury he had a couple of years ago. I just like his game. He's a good receiver, good blocker. And then on defense, you're starting to see the total snaps tick up for CJ Allen. And so I think over the stretch run here, you'll see him rotate in even more as well. Good player.
Yeah, well, never know.
Let's get to Savannah Doggett. How many players can be on the travel roster for this game? Is it the amount that you have at home, or since Georgia's the visitors, do you take the same amount as the away game? So travel roster for neutral site.
And both teams, 74 players. Even though you're the home team, you don't get more dress out guys than the other in this neutral site. So it used to be 70 per team, but now it's 74. As far as an SEC on the road game and a neutral site like that, where Texas A&M plays Arkansas and Jerry Dome, that's the same thing. So 74 players.
Bush Dog, if Coach Donnan was Georgia's wide receivers coach, what would he do to get Arian Smith, quote, right again?
Well, he's in a little slump in the games, but the thing that I got to understand as his coach is the fact he's not getting many chances to rectify that. I mean, it's one shot and then that's it. And most of the shots he gets are deep balls, which are tougher. But he did catch, a couple weeks ago against Kentucky, really did a good job. But I would say give him a couple little shorter passes. Maybe now with Bowers out there, he might get more reps. He doesn't have poor hands. He's undergoing. McConkey had a little bit of trouble last year with a drop. So, I mean, these baseball players getting a little bit of a slump. But all I'll just say is, look, I say you do this in practice. You can't worry about dropping the ball. I mean, it's like if you're hitting a golf ball across the water and you're thinking about hitting it in the water instead of hitting it on the green, you got to think I'm going to catch it, not that I'm going to drop it. So I would just work on his confidence, but maybe a little bit more. Let him catch some shorter balls where it's not always life or death every one he catches.
From PA Dog 610, if you were the defensive coordinator, do you bring pressure against Graham Mertz on Saturday?
In a New York minute. I mean, that's what we're going to do. We're going to mix it up. But we got a very astute defensive staff that does a good job of running Kirby's scheme and doing playing down and distance. Our defense has had some issues this year, but we look at some of the replacements that they had to make and who was in and who was out, playing without Bullard, all that. So I think this game we can get ahead and run our packages from being ahead. It's going to be a long day for Mertz because they're not a great pass blocking team. They're a play action team.
Let's take a moment here and thank our friends from Dead Soxy. Roddy, if you're in that cabana, you might have to take off your Dead Soxy socks to get in there.
Nah, dude, I'll get in the pool wearing these. There's no question about it. I'm having the red and black ones on there, and I think somebody didn't buy enough pairs, and that's why Georgia's had some struggle with injuries. I'm not saying the two are correlated, but last year people bought a lot of socks, and Georgia's a lot healthier. So. They are fantastic socks. The guys at Dead Soxy, they've got a NIL deal with Ole Miss. They also are trying to get one with UGA and a bunch of the other schools. So they know where the future is, and they know that Georgia fans, I mean, you have 93,000 people inside Sanford Stadium. They're like, hey, they got to wear socks. So they probably want to wear the red, the black, the striped ones, the polka dotted ones, the ones with a little state logo on it with a star where Athens is. All those cool socks and one with the paw prints on it. You can get all that stuff at Dead Soxy. They're incredibly comfortable. They don't slide down. They make small socks. They also make extra large socks. So if you're fat like me, they got some that'll fit you. And they don't slide down your legs. And hey, look, it's October. We're towards the end here. We're going to be in November, December soon. You're going to be in the holidays. Get these multi-packs. They come incredibly boxed up. The presentation is incredible. So, I mean, you're like, I don't want to give somebody socks. That looks stupid. It's not, this big poofy plastic bag. They come in a hard box. They look amazing. So get those for your friends and family. And it doesn't have to be just red and black. They have all sorts of ones. If you know some people who are sadly LSU fans, they got them covered too. So also want to mention our friends at your pie. I know we always talk on Tuesday, hey, it's double pie day or double points day. They are completely renovating their app. So if you have the app, you'll probably notice that it will update soon. It's going to be a lot smoother, and the rewards will become faster. So check out our friends at Your Pie. Use the app, order your pizzas. Go by there tonight. Go by there tomorrow. Get the gelato, the Philly cheesesteak pizza, the Southern Heat, the Ishka, the Nat. All the great pizzas, all their great sandwiches, and all their great custom pastas. So shout out to the one in LaGrange. I was there recently, went by the one and enjoyed it. And I know a lot of my buddies up in Dahlonega, they enjoy the one in there too. There's 70+ locations. So check out Your Pie when you get a chance.
Your buddy Bob Rosato up there.
He's in the green.
Yeah. All right, this is a good one from D.W. Burnett. I wonder if Coach can explain what holding is on the offense. I see receivers and tight ends getting called for it when they barely touch the guy, but I see other teams' offensive linemen basically tackling Georgia's defensive linemen and pulling them to the ground, and no penalties called there.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the hardest things to really understand why one play is holding and the other one isn't, and why you don't see these blatant calls. Some umpires, and the three guys that call it the most are the guy behind offense and defense right up the line, and then the side guys. But normally speaking, the wide receivers, if you see the wide receivers outside the framework of and they've got their hands on the cloth or grab it, you can see the cloth. They're going to call that every time. And then when the offensive lineman doesn't call a lot on the cloth, but they call it when they grab them when they're past them and, try to hold on to them there. But that and pass interference, just very subjective. I mean, you just going to call it accordingly. And one thing you do as a coach, and Kirby, again, the Masters, they scout the officials that are going to call the game. They give you a list of the officials, I think, on Monday or Tuesday, and get somebody to analyze how many times has this guy called holding, and look back on it and scout when he, and say, look, unless this guy changes a little bit, you can maybe get by with a little bit more of this. Or, hey, this guy's going to be tough. You be careful here. And the same thing with back judges and side judges. So you scout the officials too. And I used to tell Steve Shaw, who's the supervisor of officials in the SEC, after he was a referee, and now he's the supervisor of the whole United States. The guy that's in charge of talking to everybody about rules and everything. Very intelligent guy and a great official. But I said, hey, Steve, sometime before you die, you need to call roughing the passer once. And he would just laugh at it. And I think he just did it on purpose. I mean, I said, maybe your son should play quarterback so you can understand how you let these guys just batter these. That's my only little deal with him. But so we're going to leave some time for this sign stealing stuff too, right?
Yeah, they're coming. KCKD wants to know about this coaching philosophy, though. When Georgia played Auburn earlier in the year, the Tigers are coming off a terrible game offensively. Hugh Freeze changed some things that Georgia probably didn't see on film in the previous games. I'm sure that coaches knew that Auburn's offense was going to look a little bit different next week, but how do you prepare for that? Do you mainly just focus on what's on tape and hope you adjust in the game, or do you try to guess what they will do? How much time do you devote in practice to your defense getting ready for something that they probably haven't seen on tape?
Here's the thing, and this is one good point that I would make to everybody listening today. And what time is it?
12:50.
I just want you to remember this the rest of your life. If that guy scratched his ass in 1922, Kirby Smart knows it. You know what I'm saying? They go back and they look at everything that they've ever done. He looked at all the Liberty tape. He looked at when they played him when he was at Ole Miss. I mean, they got people looking. And so even though we didn't execute, though, we weren't surprised by that. We just got out. The guy made a read and he kept it, and they did some things. And we got some guys in the wrong gap. And it's just we've created a monster here. When anybody gets any yardage, everybody – and not this questioner, but this what's wrong? What's wrong? I mean, people are going to make yards on you. I mean, they know they got athletes, they got scholarship guys, but the preparation involved is unbelievable. How they will, like, I've seen Kirby, something will happen on Friday night in the game out in Sam Houston State's playing somebody else, and they try the onside kick that look different, and he'll talk to the team about it the next day. Hey, they might be doing this. We've never seen this. So, I mean, there's not many stones left untold there, but I think give Auburn credit. And also, I'm an Auburn alumni. Nobody's asked this guy yet, but nobody's asking why he didn't put that guy back in at quarterback after he scored on us. He never played another play.
From BMAR67, I'd like to see Georgia attack the edges against Florida. Why does it seem like no one runs the good old toss sweep anymore? Is it because football doesn't use that play as much in modern offense?
Well, you don't have the I formation where you have a lead back, fullback. Everybody's spread out now to run the toss sweep. That's the reason we do run a similar play on the quick pitch where we try to outflank them from the shotgun. But nobody's under center much anymore where you can run the toss sweep. But it certainly was a staple for everybody back in the old days, 48 and 49. I mean, everybody loved it. And you had different ways. You could pull the guard and let the guard pull and be the force guy and let the fullback go up and block the linebacker. You call that 48 special, or you just call 48 where the fullback goes out and blocks the support and the guard blocks the linebacker. But there's all kind of ways to run it, but you just don't see it because you don't see the fullback anymore for the lead blocker.
Let's sneak in a word here, Roddy, from My Perfect Franchise, and we'll wrap the show with sign stealing.
Yeah, real quick, My Perfect Franchise, Andy Ledecky and the folks over there, they basically, their business is getting you in the right franchise. So what you do is you reach out to them and you can text them, call them, email, whatever you want, and say, hey, I'm thinking about it. Doesn't cost you anything. And he'll say, okay, well, let me ask you some questions. And you can even go to the website, just take a quiz, and it'll help narrow it down. And there's, multi-million-dollar franchises down to very inexpensive ones. There's some that take all your time. There's some that you can do on the side while you continue your current job. Basically, to find out how all that works and where you are on the spectrum of ownership in a franchise, reach out to Andy Ledecky. If you want to get out of the corporate rat race, you want to be in charge of stuff, do that. Also want to mention real quick our friends at ASW Distillery. You notice I have the Hunker vodka behind me. If you're going to the Georgia-Florida game, it is the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I can't tell you the number of bottles of Tito's vodka I see out there. I remember seeing one guy just take a handle of it and drinking straight, and I was impressed. But Tito's gives a lot of money. They give $20 million to the University of Texas. They're huge Texas supporters. So if you're drinking Tito's, you are supporting the University of Texas. If you drink Hunker by ASW Distillery, you'll be supporting the University of Georgia because some of the proceeds of that go to the Classic City Collective, the NIL arm at the University of Georgia. So just tell me, switch out your vodkas if you get a chance.
I'm going to read these two questions and kind of combine them and just let you go, Coach. OU Herschel Walker. Coach, what do you make of Michigan's scouting network? Do you think that Tom Brady may have given them the idea to fund it, which I think is a funny point? It was obviously working since Harbaugh's record was 47-22 in the Big Ten and then 0-6 versus Ohio State. But then since Stallions was hired, 33-3, 21-1 in the Big Ten, 2-0 versus Ohio State, and then 3 of the losses were to non-Big Ten teams that they maybe wouldn't have scouted, UGA, TCU last year. And then the other question was from NCK9. Coach, what can you tell us about sign stealing and how much has it changed from the 90s until today?
Well, number one, I'm not going to poo-poo this and say, well, everybody's doing it. Everybody's not doing it. You cannot go to another stadium that a team's playing in and videotape that team. It's a rule not to scout somebody. They passed that rule 30 years ago because of a cost-saving deal of, hey, we got the tape, we exchange the tapes, everybody's got things like that. But if you've got the ability to, and I'm going to give you an example, to go in there and videotape the signalers on the sideline, and then take that back and match it up with the plays that are called and what they run, whether it's offense or defense, you got a good idea of what they're going to be doing during the game. And you can go with the flow there of the game. And as they call the play or call the defense, you can coordinate that. And as far as Jim Harbaugh, I'm not here to cast stones, but there's no head coach in America that has a headset on that's mute. So he's got to hear these different guys saying, hey, they're in cover two, they're in this, blah, blah, blah. This is a signal, all that. So he can't say, well, I didn't have any knowledge of that. What's he doing during the games? I mean, he's not watching his khakis during the game. I mean, he's got these headsets on. So, but it's a blatant misrepresentation of the rules to go visit somebody else's campus, buy a ticket, or scout somebody that may be a opponent like you're mentioning to Georgia or whoever it might be in a game because who you're going to play in the playoffs. So that's number one. Number two, as far as sign stealing itself, I mean, it's open deal during the games. That's why you see guys putting their placard up, and so people can't read their lips. And you got these drapes on the sideline where they can't look at their signals and all that. That's the way it is. We got to go like the pros now. We got to get the communication where the guys can talk to the quarterback or the defensive linebacker and call the signals like they do it right straight into the helmet. That'll just solve all of it. But if I'm a Big Ten team right now, I'm pissed. That's a tremendous advantage for them to have that. And it's pretty much the conference needs to step up and do something about it now. You can't do stuff like that. Over to you. I'm going to give you a good example. Tony Dorsett was a great running back for Pitt, and Johnny Majors was the coach. The only time he never got 100 yards that I can remember is West Virginia had an open date, and they went and took a Super 8 camera and videotaped the plays, the signals on the sideline, offensive signals, and wrote them down, and then went back and matched them with the calls on the tape. In the next game, they played West Virginia Pitt, and they stoned them. They knew what they were running. Every play, they held up 100%. So you got to, everybody said, well, you still got to make the plays and all that. If I got to tackle Tony Dorsett and I know he's going outside, I got a better chance than if he's going inside. You know what I mean? So, and that's a true story. As far as things like sign stealing, stuff like that, I've had teams when I was at Florida State, we were playing a team that sent a guy that joined our band for 2 weeks and watched us practice.
What?
He joined the band. The band was practicing right beside us and watched us and made notes on our game. We won, but we held up. So the next year, Steve Sloan went to Georgia Tech, and one of the quarterbacks at Florida State transferred to Rice, and Rice was playing Georgia Tech, and the Rice coach even though the kid was ineligible, he took him to the game against Georgia Tech and had him standing beside the defensive coordinator. And when Sloan was signaling the plays, he told him what the play was. They got after them pretty good too. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do stuff like that. And the last thing is skunking. And what we used to call a skunk was somebody that stinks for sure, but you go and watch another team practice. I mean, whether you go get in a library or, wherever it might be, you have access to it and you can watch them. I never had anybody do that at my direction. I mean, I've certainly have heard the results of it. Somebody's told me what happened and I didn't close my ears and listen. But I mean, it's just the way it goes. But the funny thing that when I was coaching at North Carolina, I'm prepared for this now. I've only got a few minutes, but I'm giving you all I got. So we had this guy that used to run around the track over at NC State. And I don't know if he knew if a football was blown up or stuffed or anything, but secretary called over there and said, hey, this guy wants to talk to one of the coaches. He's been watching state practice. And so I got on the phone and he said, look, So I've been watching them the last couple of days, and they're running a quick kick out of the call sweep. I said, "Yes, sir. You didn't run it that. That's good." Yeah, that's a new play. That's a good one. Yeah, I appreciate you telling me about it. Well, I didn't say anything about it, and I mean, dang, we played them on Saturday there at Keenan Stadium, and they were backed up. And Johnny Freight Train Evans was the guy, and they pitched him the ball, and he kicked it on a quick kick from about the 7-yard line. And I never did tell any of our coaches that I had that knowledge, but certainly I should have. But you never know. I mean, how many times you run a quick kick off a tall sweep? But
Coach, realistically, is there ramifications you think coming for Michigan this season? I mean, we're talking 6 weeks.
If there's not, they don't have any. I mean, they got to have some strength in the. I mean, if you're a coach in the Big Ten and another team is blatantly doing something like that, like I told you, it'd be like Greg Sankey said, "Okay, every time Georgia plays this year, we're going to let you kick off from the 50-yard line instead of 35." Okay, go ahead. I mean, that's the kind of rule breaking it. I mean, it's a tremendous advantage to steal signals, and you got that choice. But when you've got that video that backs it up, and you can look at, and they've got placards, they got pictures of them right now that shows the different, look like stick figures on these placards showing their different things, like strong or weak or whatever it might be. And the guy's standing there, and he just tells them what it is. So. And there were some really good signalers, signs stealers over the years. They were used to talking about Clemson being so good when Venables was there. And I remember when we played Clemson the first game when Monken was here against them, and we had all those different ways we talked about on the watch along, where we had the wristbands and we had the place where we stayed in the huddle and where we had the messenger system where we'd send the guy in and things like that. So it's a vicious cycle trying to win a game, and it's great anything you can do during the game, but prior to the game, going to another team stadium and paying the kind of prices you got to pay to get a ticket in that area, StubHub or where it might be. I mean, I don't know who was paying for this guy, but 30 different people or tickets at 30 different venues, and I guess they had some guys they would send, and all they do is video it. But so I'm kind of letting everything out of the bag here, but I got some skunk stories that just drive you nuts, man.
That's wrong. I mean, is it a fireable offense for the head coach? I mean, I'm sure they'll fire.
It's definitely one that he would be called by the ethics committee, the AFCA. I guarantee you that. I don't know that you could fire him about it, but they do have this thing now. The code of conduct for every school and for conferences that ultimately anything that happens within the program is that under the auspices of the head coach. So even if he remotely says he didn't know anything about it, it's still his baby. So. But I mean, and all the Michigan people are saying, "What's a violation?" They could go to the game and all that. No, maybe so, but they're going to have to get some video of them doing it at the games. But there's nothing wrong with what they do as far as stealing them during the games. But you can't have all that stuff, sophisticated stuff on the sideline that they've gotten for information just by watching them during the game. I mean, you got to have some kind of predetermined deal where they had some chronological plays set up.
My joke right now, Coach, is that I think the full evidence of Texas not being back is that Michigan had no interest in stealing Texas signs last year.
Who said that?
Me. That's my joke that I've been coming up with. Like Texas, you've seen all. Clemson had the tickets were there.
That's good. They weren't worried about Texas, but every coach is paranoid about signs and stuff. I mean, that it's your life. I mean, it's your lifeblood of your team. You don't want somebody to know what the play is.
I mean, there's so many ways that we're seeing now of the coaches wearing Tennessee does this, right? Where the coaches wear the different colors. And so seeing Tennessee in green feels weird, but that coach is doing that. And there's so many different things they do on sidelines just to get the right signals in and make sure they can't be stolen.
Well, we had, you have a live and a dead signaler. I mean, you got maybe 2 or even 3 guys giving the call, and one of them's live and the other 2 are dead. And so, because you want to make sure they don't know which one they're. But we had a guy that in Missouri, the name was Wagner, but we called him Wags. He was one of the best signalers. He took a lot of. He loved being able to get after the other team and give them false looks and stuff on his signals. I got him today. He said they don't think I'm live, but I'm going live and all. And it was his deal, and he played a little bit for us, but he took a lot of pride in being a great signaler. So, the wristbands are good. Those are good ways. Just get everybody on the team has a wristband, and you say wristband and then number 1 or number 4 or whatever it might be, and you just look at that, and you don't have to go in the huddle or anything. You just run that.
Was it Paul Johnson that virtually just had a substitution every play? And so
Guys, I got to go. I'll see you on the bit.
All right, see you, Roddy.
Was it what?
Was it Paul Johnson that would just run in a substitution for essentially every play?
He used the guard to go in and out. He was good.
Yeah, so they could call it that way.
I started out with Paul Brown with the Cleveland Browns. He used to have the guard messenger, and they would every play a different guard would go in with a play.
Yeah. Well, we need to wrap it up here. We thank all our sponsors for checking us out and supporting what we do. Coach, always thanks to you. Thanks to Roddy. We'll see everyone next week. And make sure that you watch our UGA Sports Watch Along show. Coach, we'll have it, me and you, as Roddy heads down to his cabana, because I think he'll end up finding his way in there even after the ticket giveaway.
He was leaving them because he got a sale on sunscreen at Walmart. He's going to get something.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all Saturday for the Watch Along show about 3:30 right here on the same YouTube channel. Y'all take care.